The chair now recognizes Mr. Krishnamoorthi for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Powell, for appearing before us. Back in 2019, you said the following. You said, we try to create a strong labor market. For many, many people and many, many communities, that's enough. But for people who are at the margins, the low to moderate income community, that's not enough. They need a chance. And earlier that year, you said you were cutting rates in part to help those who are, quote, left behind. How do you see the impact of the pandemic on these groups of people that for whom you expressed empathy and concern back in 2019? And how do you see the recovery affecting them?
Well, in the first instance, the pandemic hit the service industries very hard, industries that involve dealing with the public, hotels, travel, entertainment. And the people in those customer-facing, public-facing jobs, they tend to be relatively low-paid jobs, and their minorities and women are significantly overrepresented among the people in those jobs. And that's who got laid off. Most of the layoffs, a big chunk of the layoffs, disproportionately, were in those industries. So it's clear this pandemic really hit those people hard. And why it was even more painful was that in the last couple of years of the very long expansion that ended in March of 2020, the longest in our history, you really began to see benefits going more to those groups than to the high end. I mean, wage gains at the lower end of the income spectrum were bigger than they were at the higher end. That began to be the case in year 8, 9, 10, and the 11th year, and that was a very positive thing. And high labor force participation, the benefits of prosperity being spread widely, and it could have gone on for a long time, but for the pandemic. So we have the pandemic, and those industries are hiring people back. A whole lot of the job creation we're seeing is in those industries. You're still several million short in those industries of where employment was, but they're really high, very large numbers of job openings in a number of industries, including the service industry. So I really am hopeful with the strength of labor demand. It really is remarkably strong, that over time, and not a lot of time, this will sort itself out, and we'll find ourselves in a very, very strong labor market with low unemployment, wages going up across the spectrum.
Can I jump in for one moment, which is, thank you for that answer. You were talking about the matching function that's happening right now between people who are perhaps dislocated and people who, the job openings that exist. What is your perspective on efforts by educational systems working with governments, state, local, federal, in upskilling people to match them with the jobs that currently exist in the post-pandemic economy through skills-based education or career technical education and the like?
I've been exposed to a number of programs of that nature, and they seem to work really well. Some of them do anyway. The idea being companies, you actually see it in South Carolina quite a bit. You see companies teaming up with schools and technical schools in these apprenticeship programs, and they really work. I would say that's a great idea, and it would be great to see more of it all over the country. But those things take time. They take policy support. They'll take time to really build and
yes,
produce value. Whereas this is something we have the immediate need to get people back to work.
Yes, sir. Last question. What is the impact of other countries in the world not getting their populations vaccinated at the rate that we are, and the COVID fires continuing to rage over there? What is the impact on our economy? And if you have any metrics that can measure that, or that you'd be willing to share, I'd be very interested in that.
I don't have any metrics, but I will say and to Mr. Foster's earlier point, we're to the extent large countries around the world, large populations around the world are not getting vaccinated, we're giving time and place for for new strains, more virulent strains of the virus to develop and spread. Viruses do not respect national borders. And so I think it is very much in our interest to support broad vaccination around the world. It's also the right thing to do, but it clearly is the best thing for us as well, because no one is really safe until we're all safe.
Very good. Thank you so much for your service, sir.